but if you're not speaking or wish to speak, please stay muted for, when you are sitting and just listening in. Alrighty. Okay, we'll start off. Thank you for joining me. Karen Johnson is our secretary, and I'll ask all presenters to spell their names out for her so she can make sure that she gets it properly. Irene Jenner is our co-chair, and I am Carlton Gordon. I think everybody has seen the agenda, so I'll ask people for, I guess, a couple of people to unmute and just volunteer to approve the agenda.
So moved. Do.
I hear John do, and I have a second.
Seconded, Elizabeth.
Okay, that's Elizabeth. All right. Very good. All right. Is there any objection to the agenda as laid out? Okay. Done. We'll say it's agreed to. Thank you. All right. So now we'll hop right into the applications. The first one is 201 Washington Avenue, which is in the Clinton Hill Historic District. And the application is to construct a rooftop terrace with planters, fencing, and a hot tub, and inside screening around the existing condensers. So whoever is from 241 Washington Avenue, please unmute and speak up and tell us what you have. Anybody for 241 Washington Avenue?
Yes, he's bringing up his screen. Jarrett, you'll also need to unmute.
Okay. Can you hear me well?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Sorry about it. I was having issues. Thank you for accommodating us on such weird times. We actually started this process over a year and a half ago, thinking about it. But
okay, before you go, Mr. Tresco, hello,
sorry.
hello. Yes, just first make sure we get your name. That J-R-E-K,
Yeah.
Tresco, T-R-E-S-K-O. You affiliated with anybody or just your own?
It's my own company, Yarek Tresco Architect LLC.
Okay,
so I started working with this client over 10 years ago. We actually. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we had a little freeze there, but I can hear you.
So we started working with this client over 10 years ago. We renovated interiors. We changed windows. We did facade, historic restoration of the facade. All this was approved with landmark.
Jarek, excuse me, I'm sorry. We hear you fine, but you're still not sharing your screen.
Oh, okay. Share context.
Okay, it's coming up.
Beauty.
Okay,
Great.
I see it. We see it. Thank you. Go ahead.
So we renovated the entire 4 stories a few years ago, facade. We actually did historic sidewalk. All this was smoothly approved with landmark. Now the client wanted to get terrace approved. We didn't have they didn't have enough money to do it all at once. So we coming back a few years later to do that. And we would like, the client and I live in a neighborhood. We're very active with the neighbors, and we want to make sure that neighbors are happy. We notify all the neighbors. We spoke with them. we want to make sure that this is not too obtrusive to view, and also we want to make sure that neighbors are happy. The terrace that we're proposing is offset from the front facade, so therefore nothing is visible from Washington Avenue and the corner of Willoughby and Washington. The terrace will be visible from the Hall Street, which is, if you go to the map, Hall Street is just the border of the neighborhood, and it has a carriage houses on a historic site, and Pratt Institute is on the other side. So the terrace is not visible from the carriage houses side of the historic street because the carriages are 2-story height. But if you cross this whole street, you will see the back of the terrace from the other side, which is theoretically not a historic site. I guess I'll go to the, maybe I'll flip it to the sections just to show you this situation. Here we go. So you could see view from Washington Avenue, a person standing. You could not see the anything would do to the terrace there, but from the back, because the carriages are shorter, you could see the back, and you will be able to see that on the photographs we have taken. This is the existing facade. The AC unit is actually on the roof because it was approved in 2008 when we renovated the interior. So the dunnage and the AC unit is already there, but we are moving it sideways. We're not moving it forward, we're moving it sideways to clear some space for the terrace. So it's visibility of the AC unit is not being exposed in any more than actually it's not visible right now from the street. So that's a proposed facade, front to the left, with a little bit, everything is set back from the front. So in the section you will see that anything that you see on the roof is actually not visible from the street because it's set back number of feet from the front, and the back facade on the right, and we are also showing the material on the right that we're proposing to use. It's pretty much a historic color wood, composite wood for the railing, and above it you could see it's a chicken wire. It's actually a vegetable garden shed, and the client is right now, they have a garden out there, and they actually have also bees, and the squirrels are not too friendly to the tomatoes, so they would like to have the chicken wire there. So those are large sections with the views, and down below you will see a larger section. The red line is a line of view from across the street. So the planter is moved back 4'5" from the line of the facade, but the cornice actually sticks out prior. So the planter is 6'11" from the front of the cornice, which is not visible. The fencing, privacy fencing to the left and the right neighbors, stepping back because we don't want to see it from the street.
Since you're doing a lot of work on the roof, I was wondering, or doing a lot of things up there, do you have to reinforce the roof? Do you have to reinforce it from the top floor, or will it support everything?
Yes, so the entire terrace, the proposed terrace is on a new dunnage. Two of the dunnages are already there that are holding the AC unit, and they were engineered for the future, so we could rest the central part of the deck on those two. But we are bringing 1, 2, 3, 4 more structural members spanning across, and then we're decking above that. So all the terrace is basically supported on a structure, party walls, brick walls, and roof is intact underneath.
All right.
Then the next page, you will see the sections cut in opposite direction. We're looking toward Willoughby Avenue, and again, there's a view. A red line is a view of a person, and you will see toward the back. That's a jacuzzi with the planters above and extension of the chimneys. We're extending a flues of the chimneys 3 feet above the line of the jacuzzi. The section below is the section through the planter, and those two sections are vertical, horizontal section through the jacuzzi.
Since you're adding a jacuzzi, do you have to do additional plumbing to get the water up there?
Yes, there will be a right now there is a line that basically just for the gardening, but there will be a drain to the domestic water line and supply lines, and all this will be disconnectable for the winter. So there'll be internal shutoffs and drains, so they could drain it for the winter season. And you could see, right, we actually, those photographs are taken with a mock-up on top. So you could see this first photograph on the left is view from Washington and Willoughby intersection. We could not see a mock-up there. Second view is showing, and you could start, I guess I could try to zoom forward so you could see better. You could start seeing a mock-up of the fence, privacy fence, left and right. So that's why we decided to drop it, so it will be not visible. That's why the privacy fencing will be stepping down toward the back. It would start at 3 feet and will go toward the back. From here, you cannot see it. And from here again, actually we are down here behind the trees. We cannot see it again. Visibility starts here again, intersection, you can see it. That's all Willoughby Avenue, this is Washington Avenue. This is the back from Hall Street. That's the series of garages that are on the back. So the area that the sidewalk I'm standing on is actually on the outside of the historic district. The side of the carriage garages are in historic, but this side of the street belongs to Pratt already. So we are outside historic district. Of course, one could argue whether the whole street is in historic district or just part of it. I don't have an answer to that.
We'll assume it's historic, and
sure,
we'll let landmarks decide afterwards.
Yes. Well, the part of the landmark, I had these discussions with them, and they basically said, let's just send it to the community board and hear the community board's opinion on that. So this are shots from the roof. That is existing AC. Photo number 2 is from the front. So that AC will stay in place, but it will move to the right. You see a little bit of red mock-up. So it's not moving forward, it's just moving to the right. And on the back, you'll see those. We used 8-foot studs to mark out, to do the markup on the back facade, but the 5 feet is what the privacy fence is. So the red tape is what you would see it on the other photographs that I will present later. So I'm just telling you that 8 foot shall be ignored. It was just used for the constructing of the wall, and we were moving the tape back and forth, see up and down, and deciding at what height the client would be happy with privacy. The reason why it has to be that high, because the roof steps down, so the we would have to have series of stairs if we would bring down the it's almost impossible. We need to be with a jacuzzi above the structure of the roof. So that's the minimum we have to be at 5 feet on the back. And this is the mock-up for the stepping down of the fence. The first section will be at 3.5 feet above the deck, and then it goes up to 5 feet. That's looking toward, first one is looking toward Willoughby. The second photo is looking toward the Cobb. And this photo you see an area without mock-up, and this is on the right. I'll zoom in for you to see better. So that's 8 feet to the top of the railing, but the orange tape is a 5 foot benchmark of our privacy fence. I think next photos will be a street shots. So this is, from Willoughby Avenue, we have a very narrow area where there is a little bit of visibility because there are gardens and there's no building here, if you could see on view 11. And we actually zoomed in on the close-up number 3, and you could see the part of the red tape that we outlined. That's how much the privacy fence would be visible from there. And I'm going to go back a little bit. So that's the view from the 2-story extension, from the visibility above the 2-story extension on a building on Willoughby Avenue. To the left, there is a gate, and that will be visibility above the gate. I'm bringing these shots right now. So actually, view number 12 is without a zoom. That's our visibility. But if we bring it closer, we will see quite a lot from that area. So that's a red mark here, and this is a little rendering of what this could look like. The insect screen, of course, will be see-through, so you would not see it, but for purpose of this presentation, I shaded it gray. So because of this visibility, we want to make sure that we're using a historic material to blend in with facades around and historic materials. And I think this concludes the presentation I have for you.
Okay.
If you have any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tresca. Any comments or questions from committee members, board members? Can unmute yourself if you wish to.
I have a question. In regards to the sloping towards the rear of the deck, I just want to make sure that that 5 foot fencing that you've shown in your rendering accounts for the slope of the roof. So the hot tub will be sitting, presumably could be sitting, 18 inches or so above the current roof. So what is the height of your privacy fencing from what you propose to be the finished roof?
For the around on the back,
Yeah, on the back.
that's the 5 foot. You could see it. You could see it right here if you could see still my screen. The chimneys are 3 feet above the top of the deck. So down below, we're exaggerating. It's going to be actually a little bit less. It's like 410, but I just rounded it up to 5 foot.
Right, I understand that. The privacy fencing actually doesn't give privacy for anyone who might be in the jacuzzi. Is that correct?
Yes, it's just we're obscuring whatever structural planter and structure of the decking. Yeah, there's no privacy for person sitting in the jacuzzi.
Okay, and I have one other question.
We wanted to go higher, but it was too visible, and Landmark was not happy with it, so we decided, fine, the planters are good enough for privacy.
Okay, just staying on this view for a second. I believe the code requires that the chimneys be raised 3 feet within a 10-foot radius of the chimney itself. So I'm just wondering can you confirm that the chimney height is accurate for its adjacency to the higher part of the roof deck?
So they have to be 3 feet above a solid roof within the perimeter or anything that is fire rating. But the composite decking material we're using it's a cement board material, so it's not fire rated.
Okay, thank you, Daughtry.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Did the neighbors think that this project was okay with them? I know you talked to them. What was their response?
Well, yes, we didn't have any negative, but our neighbors are really loved in the area, so they've been there around for a long time, and the whole neighborhood, the street knows everybody there, so maybe they're afraid to say no. Just joking.
I guess you'll invite them to the jacuzzi.
Not me, but the client maybe.
Okay.
So you were able to contact, when you say the neighbors, is it the adjacent neighbors?
So I recommended that they supply letters to 4 neighbors left and right. That actually, yeah, because that's the 4th house from the corner. So they were able to do 3 to the left and 4 toward the cop, 10 across the street, and also the carriage houses on the back and the Willoughby Avenue neighbors. So I know that I know the Willoughby first house on Willoughby Avenue. I know people. It's Ted and Betsy Lewis illustrators, and they just told me that they're fine with it. They received the information, so I don't know if you guys know them, but it's easy to check.
Carlton, I live down the block from there. I'll now have a reason to look at that particular house.
Well, actually, the mock-ups are there, so please do.
Can I make a motion that we approve this application, Mr. Gordon?
So move. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, that was Daughtry?
Ernest.
Okay. We have a motion and it's been seconded. Any other questions or comments on the motion?
I did have one brief question about the planters. How heavy are they, and are they immune to the increased wind that we're getting these days?
So all the planters are permanently they could be removable, but we have them enhanced with you could basically remove the planter from the planter construction, but because of the code, we could not have freestanding planters out there. It would be easier to get it approved through Landmark because we don't have to have a permit for removable planters, but it's not safe. So all the planters are within the permanent construction to make it safe. So nothing would it will be blown out the roof.
Okay,
It's in effect, it becomes part of the building.
Correct.
Okay, any comments or questions? Hearing none. Karen, are you able to do the roll, or would you prefer Rob to do it?
Karen, just shake your head if you would like me to do the roll call.
Would you mind? That'd be great.
Not at all.
Okay.
So on the motion to recommend approval, Mr. Gordon, how do you vote? Ms. Janner? I'll come back. Ms. Ali? I'll come back. Mr. Augustus?
Did you hear me? I said yes.
I did not hear you, but now we do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Augustus?
Janner is yes.
Janner is yes. Mr. Augustus?
Yes.
Good to hear from you, sir. Ms. Blunt?
Yes.
Ms. Karstarfin?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Brian?
yes,
Thank you,
yes.
Brian. Did Mr. Sproul join us?
I don't see him.
Mr. Dew?
Yes,
Mr. Flanoy?
I'm going to abstain.
Did Mr. Scallo join us? Ms. Ginsburg
Yes.
and Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Gordon, the motion passes by a vote of 10 in favor, none opposed, 1 abstention.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on.
Mr. Gordon, your mic is cutting up quite a bit.
And
Can you hear me now? Okay, I'll repeat it. 405 Vanderbilt Avenue, Clinton Hill Historic District. Application is to construct a one-story rooftop addition. 405 Vanderbilt, please, I guess, step up or step forward.
This is Philip von Dalwijk from von Dalwijk Architecture, representing 405 Vanderbilt, with Rick Azar, who I think will start it off. Rick, you are muted. You're still muted.
How's this?
I can hear you.
Okay. The presentation?
So I assume that I can share?
Yes, please.
Yes, please, Bingham.
Hang on, I think.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, members of Community Board 2 Land Use Committee, good evening. Rick Azar, R-I-C-K-A-Z-A-R, for 405 Vanderbilt Avenue, a 2-story Romanesque revival brick carriage house located within the boundaries of the Clinton Hill Historic District. Page 2, please. Proposed for 405 Vanderbilt Avenue is a 1-story rooftop addition With us this evening are architects Philip and Kit von Dolweg, and they will present their design for the rooftop addition in a moment. But first, some brief remarks regarding the building and street history. Page 3, please. This image is the 1980 New York City tax photo for 405 Vanderbilt Avenue and shows the building very much as it appears today. There are no 1940 tax. Hello?
Oh.
Okay. There are no 1940 tax photos for the carriage. Okay. There are no 1940 tax photos for the carriage house as it was considered an outbuilding serving the mansion at 404 Clinton Avenue, and the practice at the time was to photograph only the main residence. Page 4, please. We were able to locate a 1941 image showing the east side of Vanderbilt Avenue between Green Avenue at the far left and further behind this view on the right, Gates Avenue. The second peak at the left is 94 Green Avenue, also known as 401 Vanderbilt Avenue. This Italianate Revival building was completed in 1862 and altered in 1928 to accommodate commercial use at the sidewalk level. To its right is 405 Vanderbilt Avenue, which is the larger subject of our discussion this evening, and immediately to the right, 407 Vanderbilt Avenue, an empty lot until the year 2002. Continuing to the right is 409 Vanderbilt Avenue, the carriage house and coachman residence for the mansion at 410 Clinton Avenue. Designed by the celebrated Parfit brothers, the Queen Anne-style mansion and carriage house were completed in 1882. And the final carriage house on this block was in fact built as a car garage. Completed in 1919, this colonial revival building serviced the mansion at 416 Clinton Avenue. Page 5, please. Here we have a contemporary partial view of the east side of Vanderbilt Avenue. 401 Vanderbilt at the corner left, 405 Vanderbilt behind a tree, but clearly identifiable by its distinctive parapet. You'll recall the empty lot at 407 Vanderbilt. Now it is a new building completed in 2002. Page 6, please. While the exact date of construction is unknown, we do know that 405 Vanderbilt was in place by the year 1890. By 1898, the mansion this carriage house served at 404 Clinton Avenue was demolished, replaced by a two-family Beaux Arts building completed in 1901 that survives to this day. By 1925, a separate certificate of occupancy had been issued specifically for 405 Vanderbilt Avenue, identifying it as a garage for 4 cars. And by the early 60s, the carriage house is shown as a multiple dwelling. Throughout all that time, the carriage house has remained largely untouched. The 1981 Landmarks Designation Report notes the original central double doors hung on original ornate iron hinges and Romanesque revival details such as the flat and segmented masonry voussoir arches with limestone keystones at the windows and center doors. Also noted is the corbelled cornice below a distinctive parapet pierced by ziggurat openings. In closing, I'd like to share some contemporary streets survey photos. Page 8, please. Both of these photographs are taken along Vanderbilt Avenue. At the left, from the corner of Green Avenue and Vanderbilt, and on the right, a view of 405 Vanderbilt Avenue farther down the block. Page 9, please. The photograph on the left is taken at the southeast corner of Vanderbilt and Green Avenues. And the building at the left in this photograph is 94 Green Avenue, also known as 401 Vanderbilt. And at the sidewalk grade, you can see the commercial openings done in the 1928 alteration. The photo on the right is, of course, 405 Vanderbilt Avenue. Page 10, please. On the left, we have another photograph of 405 Vanderbilt Avenue taken from across the street. And at the right, we have a credible recreation of the 1941 archive photo presented earlier, At the end of the block, 401 Vanderbilt Avenue. Then to the right, 405 Vanderbilt Avenue. The new building at 407 Vanderbilt, 409 Vanderbilt Avenue, and then at the right, 413 Vanderbilt Avenue. And at this time, I'd like to turn things over to Philip. Thank you.
So, am I unmuted? I believe so, right?
We hear you.
Right,
Go
good.
ahead.
Perfect. Yeah, good evening, everyone. So my name is Philip van Dalwijk from Van Dalwijk Architecture Office. We are basically working and representing our client from 405 Vanderbilt. We started this project probably over a year ago with having conversations with our clients who is looking forward to a single-story addition to the described carriage house from Rick in great detail. The addition went through the zoning review at the DOB, which is at this point concluded and approved, and initial conversations with two presentations towards LPC, where we actually just had today, again, a conversation with them to go forward with to CB2. So I'm looking forward to present this project to you guys. The proposed addition is in, I will guide you through it. Here's the existing rooftop, which is basically a regular membrane. What we are suggesting is a additional bedroom with additional master bathroom, a front and back terrace, and a reading area. It's basically the extension of the existing house where a single mom with two kids and in-laws living, and they're craving more space and badly need that space. What we suggesting here, you see the rooftop with the by code solar panels, and I will go towards a section where we see, or that rendering here from existing to new. I will tell you a little bit the story why things shaped out the way they are. The shape of the addition takes its cues from roof profiles of neighboring carriage houses. Proposed is a modern interpretation rather than impersonating of what was not present in the past. That means basically it's a carriage house, and as Rick mentioned, there was no rooftop extension or anything like that in the past, nor is that really part of a carriage house. With a multi-angled roof line and a continuous envelope that lessens the volume and visual impact from all sides, which means here we're facing kind of a particular situation where it's not a, your typical brownstone raw house where you have one or two elevations front and back, but here we're really also exposing or are due to expose the side elevation due to its location, since the corner building has the lower drugstore retail space towards the carriage house. So we are dealing with two very public elevations here. Furthermore, the roof shape and its orientation takes into consideration building code regulation governing installation of solar photovoltaic systems, while at the same time avoiding additional mounting structures for solar panels as seen throughout Brooklyn.
But this one, just want to just interrupt for a moment. This is required, I guess, supporting.
You're really hard to see. You're breaking up.
It's going to be, yeah.
Good.
Can you,
yes, I can hear you now. Yes. Well enough, yes. Mhm.
Okay, I just want to make sure that since this is going to be a supplier, new, I guess, supporting beams and construction that will support a full be living on it, will be walking on it. So it's going to require work at the rooftop that you have existing to have it support all the new work, the plumbing and everything else that's going to be coming through.
I understood partially your
Am I
question.
correct?
I guess you're asking. I'm
Well,
guessworking your
putting up-
question here, but it seems like you're asking for a description.
Mr. Gordon, I'm sorry, but your connection continues to be pretty problematic. Mr. Gordon?
Yeah, I can hear you well.
Your connection is pretty bad, I'm sorry.
Okay, because I can hear everybody very well. Can you hear me now? Any problem?
Let me take on what I understood from your question.
Okay, go ahead.
So I believe you're asking to get a overall description of the scope first.
Just
to
the sense
understand
of the work that you're going to be doing. Yes.
Okay, great. It is a one-story addition, which means it is an addition to the existing building, which entails structural components, plumbing, walls, roof, and so on and so forth. Yes.
That's what I was asking. Thank you.
It is basically a, if you wish to say, penthouse or third floor of this building. Now, I'm diving into the program in a second. I just want to give you the perimeters a little bit. What it is. It is a 850 square feet addition to the existing building. The existing building is a single family building. The addition is stepping back in the front from the street facade by 4 feet, and in the back roughly 3'6", 4 feet as well. That is within the zoning envelope. We could build within the zoning envelope all the way to the street facade, but prefer to step back to have the current parapet and what Rick described as the ornamental part of that building untouched. We are building from from a party wall to party wall, a new structure. That new structure will rest on the existing brick wall. There will be no new foundation necessary, which means the existing brick wall can carry the load which we are proposing. Now it makes sense to go quickly back to the floor plans. So that is the floor plan of the new addition. It's basically a bedroom, bathroom, reading nook with the 4-foot step back in the front and a 4'6" step back in the rear. That is the roof view of it with the proposed solar panels, which are required by code. And that is also part, and I will go further into that in a second, but part of the roof shape and degree of roof shape to have the right amount of solar power. But I will go further into that in a second. that is the front elevation. So the building, and you will see that also in the mock-up which we built, goes up to 34 and 6 feet and then slopes back. That is the side elevation seen from the corner of Green. Even so, I mean, you will have a building in front of it, but if I would take that building away, that's my side elevation. That's the rear elevation. That's a section through the building. Here is existing. That is what we are proposing. That is, again, left side existing. Right side is proposed. And here you see an illustration, and that I think makes it most clear. So that's the existing building. There are a certain amount of chimneys. The steel chimney on this side was built when the neighboring building, which is fairly new built, they had to put that in place. Sorry, that is our proposal where you see the solar panels. So the solar panels have a certain degree to catch the necessary sun. And again, solar panels are now in any new roof addition or new roof be part as a code requirement. Now, what I mentioned before, and I think that's quite important to understand that scheme, why the roof is folding that way, is to avoid additional structural components for the solar system itself. Means you probably saw that whenever you have a brownstone and a owner decides right now to put solar onto it, even when it's in an historical district, most likely they're becoming a aluminum mounting or steel structure, which then is hovering above the building itself. We are trying to avoid that by all means and integrate that solar panel into the roof. Secondly, why we are going with a pitched roof is to avoid an additional parapet. By code, the pitch has to be 20 degrees or greater to avoid a parapet. If we have to have a parapet, then the roof line, which we're trying to keep as low and in line with the neighboring buildings, would be extended by 42 inches and would be greater than the neighboring building. So that's important to keep in mind. Now, in general, the material choice of the addition is a standing seam metal facade. It presents a bridge material that neither mimics nor stands out. The material continuation between wall and roof and the reduction of essential details avoids competition with the existing building and its ornamental brickwork. So the approach here is that we are not trying to mimic what was never there in the past, right? We are aware we are proposing a modern addition on this building. What we are trying to avoid is that extension is taking away from the beauty and the ornaments of the existing carriage house. That's why we are stepping away from the front facade to keep the parapet untouched. That's why we are proposing a material which has less details than the rich brick facade we have currently, which means it really tries to steps back, and obviously we are aware that it's visible, but it tries to steps back and takes its glues from neighboring sloping roof penthouses. The addition is set back by 4 feet from the front of the building and 4'6" from the rear of the existing second floor, with a 30 feet rear yard back from the property line. It will serve as an extension to the existing single home in an existing use group 2A occupancy group and R6B zoning. The front elevation of the extension with its 3 openings is in alignment with the opening of the first floor. So this is better seen in that image here, where the existing garage door or carriage door, the entrance door and window is mimicking the location of the upper new windows. The north facade is windowless, the north facade is a windowless party wall with a 3 feet extension of the brick wall to line with the existing parapet. So here, that is the existing north wall, where you see that how the existing parapet sticks out. What we are proposing to align that and actually having the new extension sitting on top of it. And the rear elevation of the existing, and the rear elevation of the extension has 2 windows openings and a roof access letter. So that looks like that. As seen from the street, 405 Vanderbilt Avenue is part of an array of 4 buildings with unique roof shapes. The proposed roof addition will complete the assembly without overtaking the existing. Here are a couple of details which are important to us. Since the material is we are choosing a material which we can use as a wall and roof material. What is important there, that the details of corners and so on, how these materials go into each other, is resolved. So we're looking into certain corner details which we then bring forward in our construction drawings. There's currently a roof mock-up. So here, that is the proposed line. From there, the building is sloping, as you see, to the left, to the rear, and then folds down, which you currently can't see because of the tree. And I think I would like to conclude the presentation with these images. Yes.
All right, thank you very much. I just was curious if you would consider your addition to have the color. Would you want it to blend, sort of like the nice brown that you have, or you prefer keeping sort of the black that you have at as you're proposing?
Yeah. So if I believe, and that's kind of what we discussed with Landmark. If when you try to blend, it wouldn't be aligned with historical buildings, as you see the neighboring building, which is fairly new, but still they went also to Landmark. There is somehow an offset between a carriage house lower part and then upper roof part. But more so, if it would blend, you could come to the conclusion that it is something existing, or that it is something which was there in the past, right? Because it tries to be part of the existing building, which means when you blend too much, the brick and the new material would look at one. And I think we really try actually just to go the other route, that we are setting apart from that. We do not want to build a new building here which was never there, right? We have an existing carriage house which had never an extension to it, and therefore it actually shouldn't blend. It should actually take the back seat, if that makes sense. So
I understand your position.
Yeah.
Okay, Daughtry, I saw you had a question about PV, which I couldn't quite figure out. So maybe you can just elaborate on that.
It's not a question. It's just clarification, and I want to say for the record that I support this application and the approach that they're taking to differentiating the addition from the existing building. My number one concern as an architect was maintaining the parapet and the distinctions there, and you've done that. And I think that that the palette and the shape of the addition is a nice counter attack, I guess, or counterbalance to the existing building.
Is that a motion to approve?
I didn't want to, I'm the first person to speak, so it
But we
can
can
be,
still,
but I want to let other people speak.
Discussion.
A motion to
Carlton?
approve.
Okay, go ahead, else.
Yes, can you go back to slide 25? That's the front.
There are
Yes. I was wondering why you have on the extension, the windows are matching the first floor rather than the second floor, because I find it disturbing the layout of those windows.
Yeah, it's something, and maybe Rick, you can jump in here, but it is something which is seen in historical buildings throughout. That it is
Building next door, the one with the mansard, their third floor is matching more their second floor.
Yeah.
So they have a wider center window.
They have a wider center window, but also
Because it's matching the second floor.
Yeah.
But
also
your building
their
doesn't
windows,
have a wide center window.
Also, their windows are set further to the outside of the building, right? So here, to have the 3 windows, I think it could somewhat work in our floor plan, not preferable for sure, but it really came out of the discussion with LPC that they also preferred to mimic out of historical evidence the ground floor.
The ground rather than the middle.
Yeah.
I think the layout makes it look more contemporary rather than mimicking what's old.
Yeah. I mean, I also envision that these windows are less prominent as you're seeing them here. So, you know, I'm seeing it, whoops, I'm sorry about that. I'm seeing it more like that, being part of it.
Mm-hmm. I think it should mimic second floor, and I would like to say that in a motion. I think that wider window makes it look more modern.
Rick,
This is
that,
Eric.
Yes.
would that be more a discussion with LPC as well?
Well, it would, but I think as you know, we have discussed this with LPC, and it has been a topic of ours since the very beginning on this. This fenestration pattern in the rooftop addition mimics those openings that we find on the first floor. And we want this to have its own identity, but we do want to reference other things. And in this particular case, the reference is to the ground floor of this building. Further, the rooftop itself, the configuration is such that these are bits and pieces of a number of these carriage houses along the east side of Vanderbilt Avenue. And I think it's very important to keep its own identity. And this is a reference to the original at the first floor, which I think is important. But I think there is a certain amount of honesty in putting together a rooftop addition which has its own identity, but yet is stepped back and allows the original architecture and design of the building to go forward. You know, number 407 isn't 20 years old yet, and it was made to look as if it was something much older. This is a turn away from that. This is saying that this is what this is, and we believe it is a modern addition. We do want to have some references to some of the quotations that we find, and we feel that the fenestration pattern at the first floor is appropriate for the front facade of the rooftop addition.
This is Eric, Eric Spruill. May I speak?
Yes, Eric, go ahead.
Okay. I live around the corner from this building. The drugstore is my neighborhood drugstore. I use it every day. I don't have a problem with what the architect is proposing with this building. I'd like to move to approve.
Okay, so move. Do we have a second?
Second. Second.
Colby, can you hear me?
Okay, we have a motion to approve and we have a second. I acknowledge
Hello?
point as well as part of the discussion. That's part of what we'll be discussing. Anybody else wishes to make points on the motion?
Yes. Hello?
Yes, go ahead. I hear you.
Right. Irene Janner.
Hi, Irene.
Did you consider the black just seems so starkly in contrast? I find it disturbing. Did you consider possibly a charcoal gray, more like the mansard on the neighboring building?
We could consider that. So the color is not yet finalized, and it will be nothing. It will be certainly well thought through. I mean, it will be not your glossy aluminum facade or anything like that, right? It will be really taken back on a matte sheen, and we will go with LPC to a couple of ranges between exactly what you are proposing, between a charcoal and a black, somewhere in between, yeah. Mm-hmm.
This is John Dew, is the roof addition for the grandparents?
For the grandparents, no, it's for, I don't know how they will actually use it, but I know they need certainly another bedroom, yeah.
How are you getting
the
up there?
grandparents on the ground floor?
Yeah. How do you get up there? What kind of internal stairwell? I know it's not part of the application.
That's fine. No, that's fine. I appreciate the interest. It's really the extension of the existing stair. So what we are showing it to, I guess that's the new building on the right, the carriage house there. There is an existing staircase from the first to the second, and we are extending that one to the third floor.
Okay.
I mean, that's actually the easiest part in this entire project. Yeah.
Hello, this is Bill Flinoy. May I speak, Chair? May I speak? Okay, no problem. I'll go.
There you go.
Yeah, I'll go. Yeah. Okay, I appreciate the fact that because you only have a 30-foot backyard, that you really can't do an addition back there, and I appreciate the fact that you're keeping the front of the building intact. I do appreciate that. My issue, of course, is the design of the building in and of itself, the addition in and of itself. I feel it's not appropriate, but I understand what you're trying to do. You want to give it a unique look and want to delineate it or take additions from other structures that you've seen along Vanderbilt. But I don't think it's appropriate, especially with the color. And my feeling basically is, being that you're going from basically, there's a full addition, not necessarily a full width, full height, but it is full width, but not full length. And I just have a problem with the fact that it's so visible and it's so distinctive. That's my personal opinion. I just don't think it's appropriate. I do understand what you're doing. I do appreciate it. But the design and the color just doesn't work for me. I just wanted to say that.
Okay, Bill, thank you. Any other comments from board members, committee members?
This is Esther. I live across the street I live at 424 Vanderbilt. I think we need to vote on to approve.
Okay, Esther, anybody? I just want to make sure.
This is Eric. I don't believe I've been seconded.
I think somebody seconded you.
You were.
Okay.
Yeah, I did hear a second.
And who was that, Mr. Gordon?
Dorothy.
That was me.
Thank you.
It was Daughtry.
Comments? All right, Rob, I guess we can start with the roll call.
Okay, so on the motion to recommend approval, Mr. Gordon, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Janner? I'll come back. Ms. Ali?
Yes, hello?
Yes.
I'm here.
Okay.
I think I'm
We have
here.
yes from Janner. Ms.
Yes, I have reservations, though. I
Irene
just think
Chapin.
they should look at the color.
You said you prefer to gray. Is that correct? Thank you, Daughtry. Ms. Ali?
Also prefer the gray and have concern about the windows.
Thank you. Mr. Augustus? Ernie, you can thumbs up or thumb. There we go. How do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Blunt?
You heard me? Yes.
Thank you. Karstafen?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Howell, are you still with us? Yes, you are. No, he's not.
I am.
We'll come back maybe.
I'm here. Yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Then,
It's
thank
just
you.
dark.
Mr. Sproul?
Yes.
Mr. Dew?
Yes.
Mr. Flournoy?
No.
Although, you abstained on the last one, so you're softening. Ms. Ginsburg?
As it gets
Ms. Ginsburg? Elizabeth, are you still with us? Yes, you are, but you're muted. Ms. Johnson?
Sorry, this is Elizabeth. If you couldn't hear me, I said yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes
for
for me.
Ginsburg and yes for Johnson.
Yes.
So, Mr. Gordon, 1, 2. The motion passes by a vote of 11 in favor, 1 opposed, with the notation that some people would prefer a softer dark color, and Ms. Ali would like the third floor windows to mimic the second floor windows.
okay. Thank you. Thank you very
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to try to move quickly because it's this particular. So I'm going to move them as quickly as we can. Do we have any non-board members, non-committee members that wish to speak up? I see the notification. Again, I'll repeat, any non-committee members, non-board wish to speak up, have anything they wish to bring forward?
This is the open session for public speaking, Mr. Gordon.
Forum.
Unity forum.
And at this point, I'll let you jump in.
I don't know that I have anything specific to landmarks to discuss. I would like to just go on record that with these changes in temperature and atmospherics and everything else, we just have to take a look at what the potential implications are for everything. This is something that I think every committee needs to constantly be reminded of, because we are in a totally different environment these days. And everything's going to change to whatever extent construction is going to change, who knows, at a particular point. But I just think as a measure of consciousness, we need to just take a look at whatever is going on in the city as it relates to construction, along with everything else that is going on.
I don't know, we're having trouble, if you can even hear me.
We have trouble hearing you. I don't think there's any trouble hearing me.
Mr. Gordon, I think the bad connection is unfortunately on your end. We're having trouble hearing you.
And Mr. Gordon is gone. Ms. Janner, would you like to take over chairing the meeting?
I think he's done.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Are there any other speakers for community forum or any other business from committee and board members? Does anyone wish to speak? Oh, yes.
This is Daughtry. I would just like to clarify my comment in the chat, which is in regards to local laws 92 and 94. The architect made a reference to a requirement for PV panels. I just want to clarify that there is a new law that went into effect in mid-November of 2019 that requires either PV panels or a planted green roof. So in future projects, we'll be seeing a lot more, but it's not necessarily a requirement to go straight with PV panels.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to speak?
Yeah, this is Bill Flinoy.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I wasn't present at the last land use committee meeting. I was just curious what the statement of needs decision was for land use.
I think we gave some ideas, but we didn't actually have a vote or a specific statement.
Can you hear me, Bill?
Rob, can you clarify on that?
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay, yeah, I noticed that you didn't have an actual anything specific that you did bring up. You had a discussion, but nothing was presented or approved.
The topics that I made note of during the discussion were a need for more transient housing, especially in the current or perceived economic climate. There was a suggestion that the community board seek professional assistance for their study of AMI. And we also discussed whether or not it was purposeful to keep the budget priority that asks for a fresh look at the downtown Brooklyn rezoning or not. There was no conclusion. There were opinions expressed on both sides of the issue.
So technically, they're not presenting anything, land use.
We will include that input. Go ahead, Mr. Gordon.
I would just say that it was more, I think, a sense of the committee that we supported. I think it was the affordable housing and the other items that Rob just mentioned. It was more of a sense of the committee than any actual formal proposal.
Okay, so there's, okay, understood.
This is Eric. I'd like to say something.
Yes.
My daughter brought to my attention that I believe it's 810 Fulton Street is now ready to accept applicants. 810 Fulton Street and another building on Atlantic Avenue were two of the buildings that were made available for affordable housing as part of the deal with the library at Cadman Plaza. My daughter brought to my attention, and I admittedly I haven't seen the notice, but she said that the affordability of those apartments are decidedly not affordable.
Mr. Sproul, can I jump in?
Sure.
So the district office did announce that, and unlike most of my announcements about affordable housing, the subject line for the message was income restricted housing opportunity. So affordability is always relative to what your income is. For some people, this may be a perfect fit. But yes, the income bands start in the mid 80s, and this building does not conform to what most people think of when they discuss affordable housing. Also, yeah, that's the only point I wanted to make.
So
Thank you,
if I
Bob.
can continue, if I can continue, it seems that
Only make it quick,
these
Karen,
kind of
because we've been
things.
breaking. Go
Yeah,
ahead,
I'm
Eric.
trying to. It seems to me that these kind of things happen all the time where um, uh, developers make promises to us. You know, we approve it, and then somewhere down the line, it's not to what our expectations were. Um, I don't know what can be done about this, but I'd like to see where there is some way that we can hold their feet to the fire in terms of um, what their promises are to the community.
So Eric,
Why don't we find out what the promises were?
Eric, can I build on that?
Mm-hmm.
We should get an analysis of the affordable housing that we have approved, the date to whatever extent is reasonable, that it's occupied, and what the current rents are. Because we're always saying it's too expensive. We should have some specific details to talk about what we think was approved as affordable housing. What are they actually charging? We don't know. We just don't know.
I just want to jump in here and just make sure that we are all aware about when in the process these decisions are made. If a development takes affordable housing bonus FAR in zoning, they have a choice that's written to the zoning text about how they want to define that in terms of, are they going to be in the 40% AMI band? What percentage of units are going to be in what bands and all of that? That goes in before the building's approved. It's the first thing the building department looks at. So I love the idea of following through to see what buildings that have gotten the bonus are actually charging post-construction. But I just wanted to flag that oftentimes these decisions are made far in advance of us even knowing what is coming down the pipe.
We've had that explanation over the many years. But again, with a lot of what we do here and approve, we don't do any retrospective review to validate and use that information when we go forward. So again, we just need to have more information when we're talking about this. I did have one other item that I thought we might want to consider. There is
this
a,
discussion first before you move on, John?
yes.
Okay. Thanks. Sorry about that, John, but you're about to jump to something else, and I also want to comment on this.
I am.
Okay. Yeah, if I recall this situation, we made a proposal about affordable housing. It then went through the different levels of discussion. And eventually, if I recall, there was a deal that was actually finally made that was outside of our committee. And we never actually were part of that. We made suggestions, but down the line, we never saw exactly what was the final decision. It basically came along parallel to what we suggested in the first place, but I never heard of what the affordable housing was actually going to the breakdown was going to be.
Are you hearing me?
Yes.
I recall this building when the discussion about the library was had. I don't know if you remember, we had a big hearing.
Yeah, there was a big to-do, yes.
They were saying their AMI was a range, and they were saying like 40 to 60% of AMI. They didn't give solid numbers. And now that they have a building, they're on the higher end of their range. That's why it's really not affordable.
This
think
building,
when they
this
come to us,
building
they
was
really
not part of the
should have
library deal.
more solid numbers. specific
Why don't we start with
numbers,
that
but
fact?
they come with very vague information saying that it's too early. Because they are coming to us very early in the project.
Mr. Parrish, you're saying this wasn't part of the library proposition?
No, so, let's go back to the library and see what they promised us. Oh, it wasn't part of that project.
Okay,
But
sorry.
didn't Mr. Sproul just say one of them was the library?
Yeah, but apparently he was wrong.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right. I just want to, let me move. Okay, John, make your point. Then I want to move on the agenda because it's, again, we're breaking up a lot.
You're breaking up, Gordon. We have not discussed all of the issues that are surrounding what's happening with the sea level rise. It's going to have major implications. Apparently, the glaciers are melting at a far higher rate than what was originally anticipated, and we're expecting a sea level rise to have impact much sooner than later. Can we find out what the Army Corps of Engineers or the City of New York and get an update on what's going to be happening in Brooklyn Bridge Park and the Navy Yard and all of our waterfront properties?
Actually, on that point, John, what interestingly, let me jump then to the Chair's report because I just wanted to point out, first I wanted to point a thank you to Rob. If you haven't, the email that he sent earlier today, Rob sent an email to the entire committee. If you have not seen it or if you have not received it, please let me or Rob know. There was an email about what's in the pipeline for things that are being developed. One of the things, the point came out was the, as you point out, John, the concern with the rising. If you remember, we had a meeting over, I think, at in Brooklyn Law School, one of our committees, where we had a meeting, where we met and we had a presentation from the Department of City Planning concerning the shorelines and rising waters. And that is listed a pipeline item that will be getting back to us that's going to be coming. So take a look at what Rob has sent us, and we anticipate that they'll be coming back to us very much on that point. So I want to thank Rob for sending it, and also just bear in mind that we will be getting a whole lot of stuff that's coming. If you look at this, I call it the pipeline memo from Rob. We'll be getting the developments from 625 Fulton Street. It looks like even with all the problems that we have in the city, that the developers are still coming and are pushing their particular projects. So I just want to read the memo, and I guess if there are questions, I guess you could send it back to the to Rob in the board office. The other thing I also will point out while I was this, I guess will call as part of the chair's report, is I'm a member of the New York Landmarks Conservancy, which is a separate not-for-profit good guys group, which does a lot of work in helping people with their landmarks. And they put out an excellent report, and it would suggest that if you go to their website, it's called it's a reality, and yeah, it is a history of of work that's being done in New York City, housing, no, in New York, and houses that are basically, in most houses are more than 50 years old. And what they're trying to point out is that they are that the development that is not only development, but actually is that historic preservation in these houses is of a benefit to economy and to us as well. So I think you may want to take a look at it. It's reality and recovery. It's in their website. If you can't, I'll try to help you out on that. And it's a good
Mr. Gordon,
report.
could you give the information to Mr. Paris and let him distribute it to all the committee members?
Oh, okay. I'll send it on to him as well. All right. I just want to the last item I have here is just the minutes. Again, Karen, I think you did a good job. I'd like to get a motion to approve on the minutes, and if there are any additions, I'll make the motion to approve the minutes from August. Can I have a second on that?
Seconded.
Thank you. Are there any problems or any questions? Is there any objection to acceptance of the minutes? No objections. I have no other items. I think we'll accept, well, we had other business. I think we did other business by this extent. I have nothing else. So at this time, at 7:34 p.m., I will adjourn our meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Once again, we got through all the problems that we have here, but thank you very much. And we'll be hopefully seeing you again soon. Thank you.
Okay. Good night.
Night.